The Real Housewives franchise has given us some of the most dramatic divorces on reality television, but it has also given us something else that nobody talks about enough. Women who walked away from those marriages richer, more powerful, and more fully themselves than they ever were inside those relationships. So, we are going to go ahead and break it all down from the biggest divorce settlements in the franchise's history to the women who turned their endings into the most profitable chapters of their lives. Before we get into the names and the numbers, I want to say something real. We talk a lot on this channel about the women who got taken advantage of, who stayed too long, who lost everything. And those stories are valid and important. But today we are flipping that conversation entirely, because there is another group of women in this franchise who sat across from their ex-husbands in a lawyer's office and walked out with life-changing money, and then went on to build even more on top of it, and the audience needs to know their names. Let's start with the absolute queen of Real Housewives divorce money, Diana Jenkins from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Season 12 only appeared on the show for one season, but her story is unlike anyone else's in the entire franchise. And the origin of her wealth makes the settlement itself even more remarkable. Diana was born in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1973. When the war broke out in 1992, she fled the country as a refugee with nothing, not a cent to her name. She arrived in London as a young woman with survival instincts and an economics degree from City University of London. And in that city, she built herself a life from the ground up. She co-launched the luxury swimwear line Melissa Odebash. She established Neurobrands in 2009, a lifestyle beverage company with drinks targeting sleep, mood, and energy, eventually stocked in Walmart and Amazon. She became a philanthropist and founder of the Sanella Diana Jenkins Human Rights Project at UCLA. But let's be honest about where the bulk of that $300 million net worth came from. Diana married British banker Roger Jenkins in 1999. Roger Jenkins was at his peak described as the highest-paid banker in the City of London, according to Wikipedia. He was worth an estimated £300 million. When the couple separated around 2009 and finalized their divorce in 2012, Roger handed over half. Annual reports indicate Diana received approximately £150 million in the settlement, which at the time translated to somewhere between $250 to $300 million, depending on the exchange rate and the moment in time. And Roger, speaking publicly about the divorce, called it the happiest divorce ever. He told friends, "I love Diana and have such admiration for her as a mother, businesswoman, and someone who was brilliant as a wife." The Scotsman newspaper, which first reported on the divorce, noted that Roger himself credited Diana with helping him achieve his financial success, saying without her, he would not have had anything like the success he did. Honey, that is a man acknowledging that the woman he married was part of the engine behind his wealth, and she left with her half. That tells you everything you need to know about Diana Jenkins. Her net worth as of 2025 is estimated at $300 million by Celebrity Net Worth, making her the second or third richest woman in the entire Real Housewives franchise, depending on the season. She appeared on camera, called herself the villain, and went home to a $21 million Malibu mansion. Period. Now, let's talk about Camille Grammer from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because Camille's story is one of the most satisfying wealth arcs in the whole franchise, and she does not get nearly enough credit for it. When Camille first appeared on RHOBH in Season 1 in 2010, she was Kelsey Grammer's wife, and the way the show and the audience treated her in that season was rough. She was edited to appear difficult, demanding, and out of touch. And Kelsey, who was publicly moving on with a new woman while still legally married to Camille, came out looking like the wronged party in the court of public opinion. But let's talk about what was actually happening behind the scenes, because the financial reality of Camille and Kelsey's marriage tells a very different story. Kelsey Grammer was famously one of the highest-paid actors in television history, earning $700,000 per episode at the peak of his run on Frasier. But what the public did not fully appreciate is that Camille was not just his wife. She was his business partner. She was the co-owner of Gramnet Productions, the production company behind some of the most successful television of that era, including Frasier itself, Girlfriends, The Game, and Medium. Camille served as a creator, writer, and executive producer on multiple productions through Gramnet. TMZ even reported at the time of the divorce that Camille had essentially righted Kelsey's financial ship after he nearly went broke due to bad decisions and a drug problem in the 1990s. Camille managed the money, co-built the empire, and when it all fell apart, she walked away with her half. Camille demanded $50 million. Kelsey initially offered $30 million. They settled somewhere in the reported $30 to $50 million range, with the full assets of the marriage estimated around $60 million. She received multiple properties, a Beverly Hills estate she later sold for $13 million, a Malibu mansion originally listed at $18 million that sold for $13 million in 2015, and a Colorado vacation property she sold for $6.6 million. She also received 50% of Kelsey's 401k as of the date of separation, plus alimony and child support reported at $41,000 per month combined at the time of the settlement. Camille Grammer's current net worth is estimated at $50 million, and she is now happily remarried to attorney David Meyer. She came back to RHOBH as a recurring guest in later seasons, clearly living her absolute best life. When asked if she was ashamed of her settlement, she said no, because she was not. Both things can be true. The marriage ended painfully, and she earned every dollar she left with. Now, let's talk about someone who figured out her own worth literally during the divorce proceedings. Sutton Stracke, from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, is one of the most beloved cast members the franchise has ever had. With her couture obsession, her Southern charm, and her legendary one-liners. But what most people do not fully understand is the financial story behind her fabulous wardrobe. Sutton grew up in Augusta, Georgia, pursued professional ballet, eventually moved to New York, and later Los Angeles. And in 2000, married Christian Stracke, a man she had actually known since they were teenagers at a fine arts high school in Augusta. Christian went on to become the global head of credit research at PIMCO, the Pacific Investment Management Company, which manages over $2.2 trillion in assets. That number matters because Sutton had very little idea what it meant while they were married. Christian filed for divorce on Sutton's birthday in 2016, which, honey, let us just pause on that detail for a moment. He filed the papers on her birthday, and after 16 years of marriage and 3 children together, the divorce was finalized in 2018. And it was during those divorce proceedings that Sutton discovered exactly how wealthy she and Christian actually were. Financial disclosures. She found out they owned 2 minor league baseball teams. She found out about a timber company. She found out about accounts and properties that she had no idea existed. According to court documents that became public, Sutton received a lump sum payment of $1.2 million. 2 shared properties, including a Bel Air mansion the couple had purchased for $7 million, multiple luxury vehicles, including a Range Rover, a Cadillac, and a Chevy Suburban, half of over $14 million in bank accounts, and artwork, including Andy Warhol prints. She was also awarded $300,000 per month in spousal support, until she either remarries or one of them passes, and an additional $50,000 per month in child support. That is $350,000 per month, $4.2 million per year, guaranteed for life unless she remarries. Sutton Stracke's net worth is estimated at $50 million by Celebrity Net Worth. She has since opened her own fashion boutique, the Sutton Concept, in West Hollywood. She has built a brand, a platform, and a life entirely on her own terms. And on the show, she has been incredibly open about the emotional complexity of the spousal support arrangement. As she said once that the payments come with an anchor, that she does not want the anchor, that she wants complete freedom. But she also said she is not about to give up money she deserves after 16 years of being a dedicated wife and business partner. Like I always say, You can love your freedom and keep your check. Both things can be true. Now, let's talk about someone who is one of the most iconic success stories in not just Real Housewives history, but in American entrepreneur history, period. Bethenny Frankel from the Real Housewives of New York City is in a completely different category from everyone else on this list because her wealth did not primarily come from a divorce settlement. Her wealth came from her own brain, her own hustle, and a business idea she had before she was even famous. Bethenny joined RHONY in its first season and negotiated something that nobody else on that show thought to negotiate. She put it in her contract that anything she ever developed or created remained entirely her own intellectual property. She has said publicly, "In the first season of Housewives, I made $7,250 for the entire season, but was the only person to put in my contract that anything I ever do, I own." And that ended up being a pretty good thing. That thing was Skinny Girl. Bethenny built her low-calorie cocktail company from a concept she was already working on before filming began. She grew it on camera, sold it at bars, pitched it everywhere. And in 2011, Beam Global acquired Skinny Girl Cocktails in a deal reported at approximately $100 million. And while Bethenny retained the rights to the Skinny Girl name for non-alcohol product categories, she was a millionaire, then a multimillionaire from her own work. And then she got married. She married Jason Hoppy in March 2010, and when she filed for divorce in January 2013, the prenuptial agreement they had signed protected most of that Skinny Girl money from the settlement. Jason attempted to claim he was entitled to a portion of the sale because he had advised on the business, and at one point reportedly sought a $10 million settlement. Bethenny turned that down because she had a prenup that kept her Skinny Girl wealth protected. The divorce was one of the most prolonged and contentious in Bravo history, dragging on for nearly 8 years before being fully finalized in January 2021. Bethenny was ordered to pay Jason approximately $12,000 per month in spousal support and $10,000 per month in child support for their daughter Brynn, though she eventually had the spousal support requirement removed. Jason's net worth is estimated at between $5 and $10 million. Bethenny's net worth today sits at an estimated $80 million built from Skinny Girl, her Bravo salary, her various business extensions, her real estate flipping, and her ongoing platform. She kept it, she built it, she protected it, and when she walked away, she was richer and freer than ever. Now, let's talk about Adrienne Maloof from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because Adrienne is the woman on this list whose wealth had the least to do with marriage and the most to do with the family she was born into. Adrienne is the heir to the Maloof Company's empire, a multi-billion-dollar business established by her father, George J. Maloof Sr., that spans Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Maloof Music, movie production companies, and stakes in major sports franchises. The family was co-owner of the Sacramento Kings NBA team and had involvement in the Vegas Golden Knights. Adrienne was married to plastic surgeon Paul Nassif, who would later become a star on E! Is Botched. They divorced in 2012. And because Adrienne's primary source of wealth was her family inheritance and business, not marital assets, the divorce did not dramatically alter her financial landscape in either direction. She remained a wealthy woman through the Maloof Company's holdings, regardless of what happened in her personal life. Her current net worth is estimated at $60 million. We have to quickly mention Bethenny's RHONY neighbor in the franchise, Carol Radziwill, who left the show with an estimated $50 million net worth, built through her journalism career, her New York Times best-selling memoir, and a life she designed entirely on her own. She was never defined by a marriage on that show, and her wealth reflects that independence. Different year, different housewife. Same story of a woman who knew exactly who she was when the cameras turned off. Let me also give a quick mention to Heather Dubrow from the Real Housewives of Orange County, whose $70 million net worth is built in genuine partnership with her husband, Dr. Terry Dubrow, whose surgical career and television franchise on E! Is Botched has been the engine of their family fortune. They are still very much together, which puts her in a different category from the divorced women we have discussed. But the fact that she has also built her own brand, co-hosted a health podcast, developed skincare and wellness lines, and contributed meaningfully to their shared empire is worth noting. Heather is not on this show by accident or by association. She is there because she is genuinely a businesswoman. Now, son, let me tell you something that connects all of these women because the thread running through every single one of these stories is the same. Whether it is Diana Jenkins using her half of a banker's empire to launch a global beverage brand and philanthropic foundation, whether it is Camille Grammer protecting her share of a production empire she helped co-build, whether it is Sutton Strack discovering during divorce proceedings that she had always been richer than she knew, whether it is Bethenny Frankel protecting her intellectual property with a contract clause that nobody else in that building thought to include. The common thread is this: these women treated their financial lives with seriousness, either before the cameras arrived or immediately after the lawyers did. And when the marriages ended, that seriousness paid off. The audience needs to understand that getting a significant divorce settlement is not luck, and it is not something to be ashamed of. When you spend years managing a household, raising children, supporting a spouse's career, attending their events, building their social network, putting your own ambitions on hold, you are contributing to wealth, and the law in most states recognizes that contribution. Camille co-produced Frasier. Sutton managed the lives of 3 children while Christian traveled the world for PIMCO. These women did real work that had real financial value, and they got paid for it when it ended. That is not taking money. That is collecting what you are owed. What separates these women from the ones we talk about who walked away with nothing or walked away in debt is preparation, legal representation, and an understanding of their own financial worth going into the proceeding. Bethenny had a prenup that she negotiated carefully. Camille had co-ownership of a production company in writing. Diana had business assets in her own name before the divorce was ever filed. And Sutton had a very good lawyer who read through those financial disclosures and found the baseball teams and the timber company that she did not even know existed. That is the lesson, tea sippers. That is what these women are actually teaching us. Financial literacy is not just for the rich. It is for anyone who is entering a long-term relationship, building a home, raising children, and contributing to a shared life. Know what you have, know what your contributions are worth, and if it ever ends, make sure you have the documentation to prove it.